I have a story about a young man. Week 1, he was suspicious, said nothing the entire hour. He kept passing the talking piece. Week 2, he held the talking piece and said what he said. Week 3, the floodgates opened, and he enthusiastically and fully engaged in the topic. While their drug-addicted mother was absent, this 12-year-old boy was caring for his 4 younger siblings. He was terrified they'd be separated if found out. They were separated. Here's how we do our work. First, we create a safe structure with middle and high school students using circles. Second, we challenge them to think and act differently, engaging their wisdom and experience. And third, we support them by teaching them conflict resolution skills and validating their courage. Our work matters. More than 1 out of every 5 students report being bullied at school. We impact that statistic. More than half of bullying situations stop when a peer intervenes on behalf of the student being bullied. Based on our successful outcomes, we received a grant to expand connection circles and create a manual. Here is what we need to carry this work forward. $400 provides scholarships for 5 facilitators who reflect the demographics of the youth we serve. 1,000 will translate our materials into Spanish. 38,000 will support a staff position to take this program community-wide and train others to do this work. Now is the time to address conflict. Join us. Become the boom that chases conflict out of the room. Thank you.
Hi. Good job, Catherine.
Thanks.
I thought that you got my attention.
That was sort of the point.
It was
yeah.
very effective. I might have missed it, but I don't remember you saying our family services.
Yes, I have to.
In your intro, you said you were with the center.
I am the Center for Community Dialogue and
Part of our family services.
A department of our family services. So, and I can either say that or our family services center. I haven't gotten used to the fact that they still say just our family services, so I have to.
Yeah, you'll want to make sure you work
Yeah.
that in. And yeah, that's really all. I mean, I hardly wrote anything down because you just had my attention. So maybe some others can come up with something for you.
Hi, Catherine. How are you? I have a couple of thoughts for you. First of all, I think it's important for you to mention our family services, not because it's on the board, but because it's a larger organization with a brand and credibility in the community, and you want to ground the Center for Community Dialogue in that brand. So I think that's important for you to do. There were a couple things that I thought when you did the boom and conflict and all that, I really liked that. But I think before you say, I'm Catherine, in between the end of your boom and before you introduce yourself, I think it would be helpful for you to say just one sentence about the types of conflict that you're talking about, right? Because later you go on and you talk about family conflict, you talk about conflict in school, you talk about bullying, and it's a little bit of a ricochet, like, I think you're talking about one thing, but then you go to a different type of thing. But the truth is that you deal with all kinds of conflict. So I think if you had like one sentence that said, conflict at home, conflict at school, bullying, I don't know, some kind of like, give me a preview of where you're
bridge.
going
Yeah, you need
with
a
those
bridge.
things later. That would probably be really helpful. When you say, here's how we do our work, I think you need to reiterate who's we. So maybe, here's how we do our work at the Center for Community Dialogue. Just that simple would remind me that that's where you're from. And then on your asks, I didn't get the middle one because I was writing the previous one, but like you give your thing about the scholarships for youth facilitators, but there's a lot more detail there. I think you could just say $400 creates scholarships for youth facilitators from the communities that they're serving, instead of all the other, there was like numbers and things in there. And then on the 38,000, instead of saying a staff position, tell me what that staff position is, so that I understand how it's going to affect the program. But of course, you were amazing because you're you. But just those things will help it be better.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, on the ask, and this is probably mostly because I've heard 10 of these already, but here's what we need. We need X. It's going to cost us $400. We need to translate what we're doing into Spanish. We can do that for $1,000. Talking more, kind of just making it a little bit more donor-centric. What people in the nonprofit community do is make a manual, but what donors fund is scaling projects to other organizations, and I think that's what you're actually doing when you make a manual.
Yes, it's the scaling.
So I would say that.
I got the manual.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks to a donor.
Manuals aren't fun.
They're not sexy.
And then, I imagine you want us to talk about the beginning. So it's obviously really attention grabbing. I agree you need a little bit of a transition between I am conflict, I am Catherine, because just logically that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So throwing in a sentence or two allows you to then introduce yourself as something other than conflict, because you've done a lot to try to convince us you are conflict. I also think that you could fill in that sentence with explaining, I think explaining that acting out could be really effective, especially when you then take us into the perspective of a kid dealing with that in their head. Just conflict is unavoidable in our lives, but is, I don't want to wordsmith it, but explaining, show, don't tell. And so if you can really show us where that boom is coming from, I think that'll allow you that little pause then and tie it back, and so you can say, I'm Catherine, and go through this. You might also just want to consider jumping right into your story, because I think that's really valuable. And after you're able to share that perspective with us, I think it gives you a little bit more qualification to say, and this is who I am and what I do.
So go from I am conflict to I have a story about a young man, and then say I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And then at the end, when you call back the boom, again, the way that you talk about it at the end made me a little bit confused as to what you were trying to accomplish with it at the beginning. And so I think, at least the way I understood it, I think it's a mixed metaphor when you go back and forth. But regardless, I shouldn't be questioning myself in that. Mm-hmm. And so you need to explain to us exactly what it is at the beginning and what our role is in that at the end. That shouldn't be the thing I'm thinking about afterwards, and it was. And I'm nitpicking it a little hard on you because it's really, really good. And I think you're going to be able to use all this to make it even better. And I want to make sure that comes out. But this is a really strong start, and I think you're somebody that's just capable enough on stage to carry through some really minute changes that'll make it even stronger. So great job. Great job.
Thanks.